Everything was finally falling into place for the British conquest of Japan. Rumour had it that Jervis and the men mysteriously assigned to his command had completed their occupation of Shikoku. The back and forth battle with samurai rebels and the Wakayama clan finally ebbed into the favour of the British after many massacres. And the plan to capture French colonies had progressed superbly, with the French colours in George Hook's hands and the leaders of the French expedition defeated. It was time to finish gaining the leverage needed for a Japanese surrender before the Alcocs received a visit from their superiors.
So, is he going to be suitable for the role? He's gonna be real suitable, sir. He's real as something. Anything specific, Miss Westerman? He's kind, and he's real clever. He's so different, like he's got that illness, of course. And then there's the way he thinks about the Japanese. I think he wants to see things go well for them. I'm rather more concerned about whether he wants to see things go well for us. Tell me, what is his opinion on his father's business ventures? He don't talk about it much. Apparently his old tutor told him to stay as far away from it as possible, and he's living those words sure as his hay is greying. You realise that's not what I want to hear. I know, sir, I know. But it's nothing that won't change with time. You can change him? Well, though I say so myself, I think I can make him do just about anything. I'm inclined to believe you. I still remember what you made that admiral with the wooden leg do. Lucky you. So how about it? There ain't much point grooming someone else when the Alcock boys are ready to be set up on our side. Any talk of the British brass poking anything in? Please don't say poking in. The poor admiral. Yes, there was a fuss in London about the cost of the war, and they intend to send their own men to take command. Alcock Senior will be up for enough court-martials to last him the rest of his days, I suspect. Sounds like we've got a lot of work to do then. You most of all. Get Charles into the opium trade. We need the leverage against him, no matter how much he trusts you. I'll just snap my fingers then. Don't say snap. Forgive me, Admiral.
Hello there, and welcome back to Honourable Gentlemen. We're starting this episode off with a rare thing, a naval battle. I was merrily sinking a load of ships along the coast, and I happened to come across a group of ships that all together got some presence on the balance bar, so I couldn't just auto-resolve this one and have our fleet not be in danger. So I thought, let's go give this one a try. We have armoured ships and they have about the same number of wooden ships, so our advantage seems pretty absolute. They're also split up into 3 groups, 2 of which only have 1 ship in them. So all we need to do is sail at them, or steam at them as it were. One disadvantage we do have is that I'm insisting on using the explosive shot since the enemy ships are wooden. An explosive shot has quite a lot less range than regular shot, so we do take a whole load of hits on the way in to attack the enemy. But with our armoured hulls, that's alright, and once we get a couple of volleys off, the enemy ships will simply burn. So that's 1 ship down. Now my huge line needs to spend about 15 minutes actually going to the other side of the map to engage the enemy's main line. And now we're going to start to see some difficulties arise, because with all of those enemies that outrange us shooting our line as it gradually curves into position to start firing itself, the amount of hits they're landing, even on our armoured hulls, will be able to do some damage. You can see this leading ship is being thrown about by the constant bombardment, and over time this actually does do enough hull damage for it to be at risk. And we're still not really firing back because we haven't turned enough to get our line facing the end of the enemy's line. This is bad micro from me. I just attack ordered the entire group onto one of the ships in the hope they would sort of curl around and all get their line of sight set up automatically. but it's not really happening. So at this point I start taking over to micro all of the ships individually, but it's too late for the leading ship. It suddenly sinks. It just took so many shots that its armor plating was finally broken, and down it goes. So that really sucks. Once we finally start shooting back ourselves, things turn around very quickly, because it only takes a couple of volleys to set fire to these corvettes, and then they either sit there repairing themselves or just surrender. One ship broke off from the enemy line and was immediately destroyed because it happened to go into the arc of fire of loads of my own ships. Meanwhile, our leading ships are now dueling with the enemy's remaining ships in their main formation, but a couple of the burning wrecks from ones destroyed earlier are blocking line of sight, so that slowed things down. That was good for us though, because it allowed more of our ships to get into position. Their frigate caught fire and became useless. A gunboat that was sitting here blew up after not really inflicting any damage, so that was good. That frigate's going to surrender because of the fire that's on it, and that left one more ship that was coming in as reinforcements that still decided to come and fight us for some reason. And indeed, it caught fire as well and surrendered. A decisive victory, but the actual loss of one of our armoured cruisers was surprising. They can go down. We don't quite rule the waves enough to be totally invincible. At least we've cleared up that particular situation. The AI just keeps blockading my trade ports, which doesn't really matter, but sometimes I bother to go around and clear them out. Now over with Charles, I was going to hold the position that we held last time in a big battle that I'd now reinforced, but I realised that because of the mountains nearby, we might as well advance and hold the next castle instead, so I did just that without any issue. And now a theoretically important battle, a symbolically important battle. I'm attacking the only castle held by the Tokugawa shogunate and their samurai army, so these guys represent the leader of the enemy alliance, so let's bring them down. They've got the castle on their side, but we've got our navy to just bombard the castle from nearby, meaning once the enemy samurai gather up in the courtyards to defend against our impending attack, we can just demolish them like this. We're going to play this battle much like a regular siege. We have so much of a ranged advantage, we can just harass the enemy and use troll tactics to kill loads of them before the battle really gets started. There was some high ground near the castle, and up there I placed my howitzers and some engineers to snipe. The howitzers actually glitched out. This does happen occasionally. Sometimes when you unlimber artillery, one of them doesn't unlimber and it causes the unit to freeze and you can't give it any more orders from then on. So that makes our ranged potential rather diminished, but still we've got our engineers to snipe and our parrot guns to provide artillery fire later. We can virtually destroy the enemy army without really making a serious attack. I have good news and bad news. Does a general ever hear anything else? The good news is casting a shadow over my paper as I write. We found these Tokugawa people and have got them locked up in their little box while the muck and the steamers try out their new ranging techniques. Works well. We could hit a penny in the centre of Lords from here, I reckon. No idea if the big man himself is in there, but we're making our point pretty clearly, whatever the case. Bad news is a bit of speculation, but I think you'll want to go in for it. I was talking to an old mate in Fremantle and he was saying that a load of ships got called over to India. Enough ships to ferry an army, he said. Well, I think it's safe to say that the government's planning on dropping the old Empire bomb on this place and making this thing more formal. I don't know what will become of all us after that, but for my own part, I wish to ask that I be considered something of an outsider. I understand that you and the Colonel have a great personal interest in this place, but truth be told, I'm just here so the Admiralty can say they had a man on the scene, as far as I can tell. I would rather appreciate it if you gave me permission to go disappear back into the sweat boxes if there are any legal complications arising. Not that I'm saying there should be. I hope you understand where a poor provincial's coming from here. Even without the howitzers, the bombardment and the sniping, did the job. The courtyard is now filled with enemy bodies as the last few samurai are taken out. The enemy kept putting more troops here because it looked like I was going to attack with all of my regular infantry, so they needed to defend this part of the wall. However, that didn't go very well for them, as we can see. The battle wasn't over because there was a unit of spear levy in the other part of the castle hanging out, but they routed after I turned the artillery to fire at them. The battle's over, a decisive victory with virtually no losses, and I think a nice symbolic victory. The Tokugawa army, with the best of Japan's samurai, has been absolutely annihilated almost for free by a British army that really didn't even break a sweat, and the vast majority of our soldiers didn't even participate in the battle. So we'll move on in and take Edo port. That allows our fleet to sit here without being bombarded all the time, which is quite nice. I'm just going to sit here for this turn and see how the enemy react. Our next target will be Tokyo, which is right next to us. It's somewhat guarded, there is an army in the way, but I think at this stage, even if they had 4 stacks there, the maximum that can participate in one battle, we'd still have a pretty good chance against them just because our armies are so good. Now, John was able to take a Wakayama castle. I'm pushing up on the Wakayama not because there's any real reason to do so, but just to show that the main clan that's been providing us with difficulties is now on the back foot and that we can overcome them. They did, though, pull this cheeky move. They've started another rebellion back in our own territories, in Oji this is, and in this case I have to just let them take it. So now John's actually cut off a little bit and I'm going to have to move back up to retake that place. Here's a little sample of what happens at the start of every turn. I get about 1 billion messages, most of them bad, or all of them bad in most cases. We hack through those, and now I am going to be able to move John to go and take this place now if I do a little bit of manoeuvring in the castle. This is an old Shogun 2 trick, because moving in and out of a castle is faster than walking around it, so it gives you more movement points effectively if you garrison things and then ungarrison them. So there we go, I just put them under siege and we'll deal with that later on. Charles was also on the warpath because I realised once again that because of the way the mountains were set up, I might as well continue advancing to a new safe position. I actually vassalised the last place I took, but this time we're going to go for a capture. Night attack makes it nice and easy for us to do that. This time there's an actual fork, so we can't just keep advancing willy-nilly. We're running out of men to leave behind to guard the forks, that's the main problem, and I can't really recruit any more troops. I'm at the cap for almost every type of unit in the game, although I'm not using most of my armies in order to self-handicap. Anyway, we've got George Hook advancing now on the Odawara, who conquered the French, in order to just reconquer this colony again. The enemy has the advantage by the looks of things, but I just don't believe it at this stage. I think George's small force will probably be fine there. We can use this little navy to support him just about as well. As for Joss, we're now in the turn after he took Edo port, and the enemy have reinforced their position around Tokyo. Those two armies aren't near enough to each other, so we can actually attack Tokyo without invoking the second army, but I'm just going to lay siege and give the enemy a chance. We'll see if they try and put up any sort of serious defence over what is effectively their capital at this point. Before that, though, a little battle with the Nagaoka. Some troops are left behind to defend our Toyama vassals, who were previously defended by Charles, have to face a Nagaoka army.
I don't mean to complain, darling, but sometimes a wife has to worry about how her man's gonna be supporting the family, you know. Family? You're not talking about... Oh, Charlie, you got cheeks like a desert rose. I'm talking about money, silly. Ah, yes. There shall be plenty of money. Uh-huh. Where is it now, then? It is family wealth. The estate in England generates enough for us both. You think you know how much a lady of sophistication needs, do you? This dress was blessed by the Holy Father in Rome. That stuff don't come cheap. I don't think it's proper for you to be asking me for money. Is that your vision of marriage? Alright, fine. Let me just put it out in the parlor for you. Your daddy is a rich, rich man because of this war. I know you think he's doing something wrong and all, but ain't you gonna help him out with his work? You owe it to him. And to me, right? I'm not sure. You see, Cao-chan, your affiliation with whatever cult it is you take an interest in has put me rather on edge. I'm gonna help you keep Japan safe, that's all. That's what you want, right? It is among what I want. And John is an important man for Japan. So are you. You need to get the money to make sure no one else can challenge your power. Opiates gets you money, and I think the people like them too. The people are deluded because of them. My debt to the Alcock legacy has been paid through my military service. I need not dirty my hands with all that embezzlement advice. The law will catch up to him soon. That isn't. You must have been brought up by a saint, little goody two-shoes. You'll see it the right way soon enough. You know, all that holy water made the buttons on this dress keep slipping straight out.
Mostly just standing in a line and shooting at the enemy proved sufficient to win that battle. A couple of units were damaged by the enemy's melee attacks, but nothing significant. We also happened to get a promotion from this battle, so that means the army will now replenish and we can leave it there to continue guarding our vassal and our border in that area. Now a battle for George. He was attacked by one unit of recruits that draws out the big garrison he's currently besieging. So now we've got a fight where we're very much outnumbered by the enemy. We've got 6 or 7 ranged units to use and the enemy have like 20. So our line's going to be very small in comparison to theirs, and I wanted to see how this would go. To start things off, I'm going to make a cavalry attack because the one unit that attack does is on its own as the battle starts, so we can rush over before the enemy's reinforcements really get into position. This unit didn't turn to face us as I came to attack its flanks with the cav for whatever reason. Usually the AI does notice you cavalry charging it and it tries to turn and shoot them, but it didn't in this case, so we piled in, managed to rout the unit and escape just as the reinforcements got into range to start shooting at us. We did take a couple of casualties, but nothing significant. I've set up a nice little line on the hill ready to face the enemy. Our first target was this one unit of swords that I presume followed my cavalry, breaking formation for some reason and getting itself killed, providing us with a bit of a warm-up, I suppose. Nice for our men to get their ranges sorted out as we cut down these swordsmen who didn't achieve anything. Perhaps I don't need to tell you that. Then their army advanced. It's a lot wider than ours, but in the centre, where we're going to be engaging it, our troop quality is significantly higher. We've got 4 units of King's Guard who are going to shoot really accurately and quickly. They also slightly outranged the enemy. The enemy made it worse for themselves because I think they ran much closer than they needed to for themselves to fire, which does have some merit. It makes them more accurate, but it also means we're shooting them a lot before they have any chance to counterattack, and in many cases whole units are just annihilated before they fire a single shot because the King's Guard are just too overpowered to deal with at this stage in the game. They could have outflanked us and potentially done some damage, but because the AI hates itself, it didn't. Its flanking units just stood there, while in the centre, the one-on-one fights between our King's Guard and the enemy's various garrison infantry, recruits, levies, things like that, went, surprisingly, in our favour. I also had my Royal Engineers sniping over the top of the line, which made things even better. So, just a minute after the fight started, all we can see are bodies and retreating enemies in the centre. That all went surprisingly well. Here's an example of the destructive power of our line. Some infantry come to engage us, and within literally seconds, they're almost all dead. Absolutely no chance whatsoever. Pure OP-ness from the King's Guard, especially now that they're high rank, and they may even be the ones that have accuracy upgrades as well. They're just unstoppable. The casualties on our side are minimal at the same time. Everything routed apart from this one unit that was coming onto our flank. I decided to blow up the hill it was on using naval support fire. We got direct hits on the unit and the AI was just like, no, and crashed the game. Luckily enough, it didn't crash during the actual battle. That was just the replay. Oh, it did actually crash during the battle, but at a different time, and then I re-recorded it. And here's the result. Minimal casualties. The enemy defeated. Their numerical advantage was completely wasted. I thought maybe they would be able to challenge us because I only had half an army here, but not at all really. They just can't do it. Now, if you happen to remember, we did that siege earlier against the rebels, and there's the conclusion of that. They sallied out and got themselves killed, so we've re-secured our territories over there. Now back to George once again. I thought we might as well take this castle since I knew the garrison would now be virtually nothing. They had a few units of reinforcements, but we can use night attack to ignore them, and in we'll go for an easy victory. Now, in the aftermath of this, I was originally planning to take the castle and just sit in it so we can occupy the central French colony, but we still have the option to remake France again as a new vassal, and for no particular reason I thought let's do that, let's just try and actually subjugate them this time. But strangely, after I did so, the man leading the French is the same man who we certainly killed earlier. His name's Philip Bonaparte, and he also has a son named Philip Bonaparte. There's something going on here.
You again? How did you? You see, Englishman, it is not so easy to destroy the spirit of France. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. They give me unlimited potential.
You were shot through the skull and your corpse was buried on my own orders, Mr. Bonaparte. I demand you explain the ruse behind all this at once.
Your small mind cannot comprehend it. You think that mere bullets are enough to stop me.
I must say I did. You don't happen to know a man by the name of Jervis, do you?
Jervis, the monster. He is unsophisticated, unworthy of Daddy's gift.
Lord Almighty, what is this nonsense in human form I must behold?
It is your doom, Englishman. I will not stop until the very word Breton is uttered only with a shuddering cry and a vision of a sea stained red with bewigged peasants' blood.
Not today, please. I've business shortly.
You may shoot me, but it will change nothing. There will always be a Philip Bonaparte.
Really? I shall order more bullets then. Good day to you. The next bit of action was a small naval battle contesting one of the straits between Shikoku and Owaji that we need to hold in order to stop the Yamauchi deploying their various armies from Owaji to lots of undefended castles. The battle starts well because of a slight exploit, I think actually, by switching to explosive shot as the standard shots were being fired on our frigate. I think it made the standard shot range, but with the explosive shot effect, and we immediately destroyed one of the enemy ships from a great distance. That was handy. Then the other ships started bunching up together, and that's perfect for using explosives. The explosive shots are inaccurate, but when the enemy ships are all next to each other, you end up just hitting stuff anyway. Fires start all over the place, and everything goes fine. The only problem with this battle was that I had this gunboat that was just wandering around, not really participating, and it actually got shot a couple of times and sank while routing. You can't order a ship to repair its hull while it's routing, so they would rather sink. That's a shame. So we won the battle easily, but the gunboat was sunk. I should have just left it in the corner or something, and that would have been fine. We'll put some more ships there because defending those straits is actually quite important. Charles is put under pressure there. He's got a few armies besieging him, but they don't have the courage to go for an attack right now. The Odawara are going to be annoying. They move an army down behind Joss to now take Edo Port. I had presumed, for whatever reason, that the enemy would focus on attacking Joss where he is, because we're besieging a victory province right now, but I don't think the AI actually works like that. It just acts seemingly randomly. So now this is annoying. Our ships will be bombarded by Edo Port's guns. I'm going to have to move them away until we take the port back, which I will try to do with Joss, because it will make life in that area much easier. Now at the start of the next turn, hacking through the various pieces of news, we can get to a particularly unique happening. One of our generals has been enchanted by an enemy geisha, and that means he is now Japanese. He's decided to join the Kawana clan because the geisha seduced him in some way. So that's rather inconvenient. Here's the geisha. She's super high level. We don't really have an agent to bring her down, so she might just do it again. Not much we can do apart from take revenge. Jervis happens to have mysteriously appeared in this area thanks to our railways allowing us to teleport stuff around, and he's going to go in to take this guy Granger down. It's an auto-resolve obviously, but I thought I'd do this manually just to take extra revenge and to give myself an extra excuse to add Jervis shouting some more to the series. So I hope you'll join me at the start of the next episode for that. That's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and special thanks to all of the OfficiallyDevin patrons. The Japanese actually are going to make us work to finish this off as they make counterattacks, leaving George and Joss in a difficult position over there in the east in the next episode of Honourable Gentlemen.